So
Let me
obviously,
get out of the picture so I won't make faces.
Stop.
so obviously incomplete. So give me a few minutes and I'll get probation on it. But probation, your probation screen will live here, and wherever your probation PC is, it's probably hidden somewhere. I'll make sure to put it tucked away where it's easy. If you have one of those smaller PCs, which I think you did, or maybe this is all in one, which would be great. I usually kind of put it here, so that way probation kind of independently is living by itself. There is a keyboard tray for your probation keyboard that's going to live in here. Your tabletop and everything else will be kind of the same kind of workflow that you guys have been experiencing. The back of the cart, I want to show you a couple of things. Obviously very different. This is back from like the 70s. So it's been a minute since you guys had a good cart. We've had 3 other versions since then. But when you have to get access to the back, and hopefully you won't have to, I'm going to cable things so you won't have to necessarily get back in here. But in the event that you do, the way you remove these panels is you just pop it out. It's like a rubber grommet on these little tabs up here. Don't pull it so hard that these rubber grommets fall off and then you can't put it back on. So it just snaps in. When you put it back in, there's like these little holes on the very bottom. They align with those pins down there. So just make sure those align and it should fall into place like that. And then it pops right out. So if it's not popping in, you don't have it aligned in any fashion before. So much cleaner, a lot less cabling than the old processors. So it's a lot more simple from a cabling perspective and troubleshooting, at least for me, thankfully, is a lot easier. And for clinical engineering and anybody else who's assisting, it's a little bit easier to manage than previously. If you ever look at the back of that, it could be kind of daunting. The same thing with the other panel. The only reason that you would ever get back here is if you had additional accessories from other vendors, whatever it is, pumps and things and whatever, endoscopy, such things. Same thing here, that panel. There's additional power for those sources. So if additional components get added in the future, more than likely they have the same socket where we already have power almost to every shelf for any kind of future use. Sometimes these carts are full with stuff. There's plenty of power for it. Let me put this back on and show you. There is a main power source here, and that powers the cart and everything in it. So all that wire loom is plugged into the bottom over there. You shouldn't have any issue. But if there was a surge, it would trip, almost like a breaker at your house. It would trip something down there, and then you could probably reset it. I've never heard any situation that happened. But for some reason you're not getting power to the cart, it's likely some breaker tripped at the very bottom. So no need to have multiple cables for you to plug in whenever you're traveling in the ICU, or a power strip. Power strips are something that we don't want generally in endoscopy or any kind of surgical area. So we're trying to get rid of that with the older versions. Any questions so far? All right. These have handles galore, so if you need additional hands, this will probably wheel a lot better than that guy. Do you have like ramps or hills kind of to manage around this facility?
Oh,
Since
down to facilities, but not like going upstairs or
not
anything.
like moving around. The reason I ask is because this wheels really well, so hold on to it because it's gonna move on you, even though it might be heavier. It wheels almost like it's very light. So the front of the cart, let me plug it in so you guys can see. This does take, not to get too technical here, a 20 amp outlet, which is basically that little tab that goes to the side. You've never seen that. Most of the hospital plugs will have that. If you plug into any of those red outlets anywhere, generally speaking, they'll have that in there. You have your main power switch that's glowing here. That's different from, the 1970s. So this actually powers your entire cart. So in the event you had multiple units on here, so for instance your CO2, your pump, all that will be plugged in into here in just a few minutes. and this will get power to all of that, right? The processor, it can remain, everything can remain on and be powered on for here. How many of you are taught to turn off the processor when changing scopes? Is that how you guys are taught? Great. That's how you should do it. You don't have to do that with this, but there's a few steps that that we have to do in order to communicate that you're changing a scope, and I'll show you what that looks like. There are some settings that this looks a lot fancier, obviously, than the old processor. Out of curiosity, when you're pressing some buttons up here, what are usually the things that you usually look for or press often? Let me bring this over to you guys. Anything here that you normally press other than lamp on, lamp off, white balance? That's about it? Just about, right? And then you probably look for that like lamp, like if it's expiring or not.
Oh yeah, the bulb.
The bulb.
Yeah.
Just about anything else here you probably don't even touch or maybe press by accident and have no idea what it did.
We do oh no, that's up top, the stop for sequence time.
Did
But
you
that's
use the
on
stopwatch?
keyboard.
Got it,
Yeah.
you use the stopwatch? Okay,
That's
gotcha.
up top.
So up here, there's some things that some people probably never even knew that was here, or pressed it by accident, don't even know what's going on with it. That's iris and enhancement. I'll show you what that is and what that's for. Air on and off, obviously, and low, medium, high. You probably use CO2 mostly, right? So this is probably on standby most of the time. Do you ever use air for anything?
Only when problems with the CO2 arise, and that's pretty rare.
Pretty rare. Lamp brightness, sometimes people adjust it, right? And then you have your expiration of the lamp indicator. So the new one doesn't have a lamp. As you can see, the side panel, no more like bulb changes required. It's been a thing for every endoscopy processor before this one. So this is LEDs. This has a 500-hour life. That's 10,000 hours by comparison. So it'll be several years before you ever have to worry about a lamp change. And the way that's done, it's through a repair process like you do with scope. You send processor in, we give you another one while we fix it. So it's not something that you have to necessarily keep an eye on anymore. The other thing is lamp on and off is probably what you're pressing, and maybe trans illumination. Maybe when you're placing a PEG tube, maybe sometimes, maybe not, rarely. Well, all those things I'm going to show you where those things are in case you do need to press them. Those are the common things that most people would probably press. So let's come over here for a slight second. I'm going to do something here and just turn something off because it should have been on. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to make some setting changes here in a minute. This is a quite fancy unit. It doesn't require a username and password to get into it, but I can have that ability. And the reason for that is because it has the ability to save pictures, right? So if we have patient information being saved in there, obviously just like anything else in the hospital, we want like username credentials to keep patient data protected to hit the thing. Now, generally speaking, the old processors don't have that capability, right? It can save a picture, it can save the patient's name even if you type it in, but there was no way to protect that. So all the new processors now require that. Are you saving pictures right now into the processor and recovering them for any reason? Probably not. Most places aren't. Yeah, most places probably didn't know that's capable. And the reason being is because these old processors didn't have much user memory space in there, so it'll fill up within a week, and then you get error messages that your memory is full, and then you're calling Olympus on trying to delete that. It's a pretty archaic way to clear that message all the time, and so more often than not, we just turn that off. So why am I boring away at that? It's because this has a bigger hard drive. It can save pictures during procedures. In the event that Provation's not working, or let's say you logged in and you guys are going about your way, taking pictures, and you look, and there's no pictures, we've all been there. And now you have a way to recover those pictures really quickly, and I can show you how to do that. So there is a way to save pictures here, in your case. be able to open probation again, go through those logins, and then be able to load it in without kind of a hiccup. So I've been there, everybody's been there, where maybe in the first thing in the morning or after a weekend, the computer's not necessarily communicating well, and the pictures aren't being saved. That happens. So I'll show you how to do that real quick. Now the front panel, when you first power this on, this is what the home screen looks like. The air on and off is here, so it's right at the bottom. These little tiles can be moved around, so for instance, if you don't feel like you ever want air or that easy access, you can move this and program it to something else. So air on and off is right here, standby, low, medium, high. I'll show you what that looks like on the screen. I leave a little indicator, so if the physician wants to know if they're on air, they can actually see it, whether or not the air is on and off, or what level is it, it's at. So if I'm the physician and I want CO2, instead of asking you all the time, is the air on or off, they can see it. Typically I leave those there just because you do use air on occasion. When you reprocess the scope, you should use air when you're doing your pre-cleaning. And if you didn't know that, now you know. I will make sure that that's in service if that's something that you guys want to do. There are 2 new things that I want you guys to do. So I told you one thing that could be different, right? If we're trying to save patient pictures, let's say we're doing an EGD, our physician takes 5 pictures. Those 5 pictures I want saved here as a backup, right? If probation's talking, you'll never have to access it. If probation for some reason didn't capture those pictures and they're freaking out because the pictures didn't get in the chart, no big deal. If you hit end exam after every scope change, and I'll explain why. Because if you have a double, then you can split your pictures between an EGD and colon, and you can easily load it based on how they want to organize in the chart. So anytime you pull out a scope, you're going to hit end exam. It's going to take those pictures and file it, right? It's going to have a timestamp and a date, right? Before you pull the scope out, there's a scope disconnect here icon. It's not highlighted because I need a scope. But before you pull the scope out, you have to tell the processor that you're exchanging it. If not, it's trying to make an electrical connection. So if you sever it, it's going to give you an error saying, hey, what happened? So it's expecting its scope. Why is that important? You got to tell it that you're disconnecting safely and moving to another scope. Because if you have an error, let's say something's wrong with the scope, and you pull it out, you bring another scope, it may still think it's the previous scope. So you're just transferring the error on. You get all kinds of weird messages because it's still trying to find that you kind of severed that connection kind of abruptly. So don't do that. So disconnect. It's kind of the same method as turning it off. You know, the old school way was just power it down and pull the scope. Just hit scope disconnect. That's kind of the same process of powering it down. It's probably a little quicker than just turning it off. Are you wrong by turning it off? No, it's fine. It actually does the 2 things for you. It ends the case and it disconnects the scope at the same time. So if you still want to do that, go for it. But if you remember anything of today, before you pull the scope out, hit end exam, scope disconnect, and then things will be working fine. You can recover pictures, you can do all the things that I'm going to talk about. All things will work in your workflow. So just before you pull the scope out, hit end exam, scope disconnect, do your thing. All right, let's find some buttons, things that you normally would press on that processor. I told you about air on and off, right? There's going to be an icon here. This is the iris. This is the same iris that's on here that nobody presses. And if they press it, they usually press it by accident. And when they press it by accident, usually I get a call that my image is dark. So more often than not, I get rid of that button and put something else there. If more often than not, nobody's going to use that or even know how to use it. So I get rid of that and put something else there. I'll show you how to use it and what it's for, but for another time. Now there's another tab up here. See this up here? This is basic functions. This is your home screen. There's a custom functions tab of additional things that you can press during your procedure. And all this is programmable, right? What I typically put here are the things that you guys are going to be using often. So you guys go to the keyboard and press a stopwatch. Is that how you normally do it, or do you have a button on the scope that they turn on for the stopwatch?
For the Seagram? Yeah, it's a button on the keyboard.
Got it. So instead of the keyboard, you're gonna go to custom functions, and I'm gonna put it right here. It's gonna be a stopwatch. All right. The other thing that I told you about transillumination, if you're placing a peg tube, that's right here. It's under the customs tab. That would be typical if somebody's. Let's say you're going to the EG and you're trying to place a peg tube. You turn on the lamp real bright so you can see where. That's what it's for. It looks a little different, so if you ever use that between them, this is using a red light now. Red penetrates through tissue better than actually just turning the lamp really bright. So this uses a little more science behind the reasons why we're doing that. There are new modes for this that the physicians are not going to be familiar with, meaning optic modes. There's something called TXI, which is a texture enhancement. So we're often looking for polyps, right? In colonoscopy. And we know in the right side of the colon, flat sessile lesions, sessile serrated lesions are very difficult to detect. Even in white light or NBI, you've probably seen some folks use NBI in the past. What this does, it raises the topography of the tissue so they can see the margins a little bit better. So even after polypectomy, if they're kind of trying to determine whether or not there's still polyp there, TXI helps the enhancement. This thing is so advanced, image-wise, that they're going to be like, just even on white light, they're going to be like, oh wow, this is nice. And it could even get nicer with even the newer scopes that have like more extended depth of field and so on. You guys don't have those scopes yet, but the 190 scopes are going to look really, really nice. They work just fine with this, but it could even be much nicer. Some of your docs have already used the new scopes in other facilities, so they're already kind of familiar with some of the technology behind that. There's also one new mode that's really cool. It's called RDI, and I'll make a program button here. RDI stands for red diachromatic imaging. So if you have like a bleeder, let's go to ICU or whatever. What this does is if you're in the lumen, there's a lot of blood. You can turn on RDI and kind of like almost erases the majority of the blood, and it shows you the highest concentration of hemoglobin. So it saves you a lot of time of finding where this bleeding is coming from. Really.
You could have used that last week,
Yeah.
Dr. Patsky.
I'm with you. So this takes some time because docs are not going to remember to know this because it's so new. They've gone through fellowship, training, all their careers, and all this stuff is new related to this processor. So they're almost like going back to training all over again. That's been the majority of my work this last 2 years is revisiting with these physicians, and you can imagine I have thousands of physicians. I can't visit all of them. But if you find that some of your physicians really need some hand-holding, give me a shout. I'll set some one-on-one time, and I'll show them how some of these image ones work. More often than not, I'm training you guys because you guys are like the voice in the room, and you're like, oh, doc, I was when I was a nurse, and half the time I learned about something that I'm showing my physicians on, and then they're like, oh wow, this is really helpful, and now it became like standard practice. Does that make sense? So I'll show you a couple of things, and once I get it programmed correctly. The new screen is also behind you there. I'm going to show you how to use that. It sounds pretty easy. You just turn it on. You guys don't plug anything else in, right? You just plug it into the part, call it a day. You don't really plug any other components into your screens at this time, right? You just travel with it. When you travel, do you travel with this? When you go and you just disconnect the cable here.
No,
We take the cable.
You take the cable
Uh-huh.
from the ground
And plug it in the back.
and plug it into that. And you guys know where to plug it in.
Mm.
If
That's
I look
usually-
at it.
Yeah.
If you look at it.
No.
I mean, bravo. Understand where to connect. I might actually do something simpler. I might give you a cable that sticks out of here that you just plug into, so you don't have to go back there at all. You want me to do that?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That way you're not taking off the panel or leaving the panel behind an ICU and nobody knows where it is. I see it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, where's the panel? No idea, somewhere else. So no need for removing it if I give you a little kicktail, if that works.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll work on that. Any questions so far? All right. Case is at 8, is that correct? Is that
ish.
Ish,
I
yeah.
mean, there's our Volses, if they push it back.
Uh-huh.
Is this on video?
Friday.
We can pause.
I'm fine if we have to start a little bit later today. You know, this application, I'm okay with it. I think you've been told him he's
I think
gonna
he
get ready
knows
to
that,
process it.
yeah.
We need
His
that.
background.
Okay, or we need the process.
Art.
I'm trying to be.
No problem.
Art.
I'm very cognizant of getting starting on time, so we can still do
Well,
it.
thank you, I appreciate
Yeah,
that,
no,
but I will
no
allow
problem.
you to have a day.
I gotcha. So give me a few minutes to get probation on here, so you guys can kind of like get the feel. The CO2, and this is up for discussion. We were talking about this a little bit earlier. So there's a couple new components on here that this is a choice. I've kind of made some guesstimations because I built this the other night, and I just kind of worked within what I thought your workflow would look like in this room. So let me give you an example. So on this side of the cart, you guys are very used to going around the back to change your CO2 tank. That works. Generally speaking, though, you guys are on this side of the cart when you're like assisting, or where are you guys standing?
This side.
This
You
side.
guys are standing on this side.
Mhm.
Well, until you have to use the Irby and
Until
then
you
you
have to
go
go all the
behind
way
there or come around and,
Mhm.
I got you.
uh-huh.
So this might all work, even in this scenario. Then your Irby can live right here, so that way you don't have to necessarily walk around. When you travel, your Irby will be with you, rather than taking something else, a screen and so on. So you don't need like to be doing this. So hopefully everything will be a little easier to navigate when you're traveling with this. That was the whole idea of adding some of this component. So this large, massive holder, it's meant, if you never opened this Irby cabinet, there's a big argon tank that's in there, it's fat. That's what that can be held for, so we can mount it on there. Very rarely you'll have to exchange those out, or clinical engineering or facilities, whoever's responsible for changing the argon. Those things don't get utilized a whole lot because you're using only for APC. The CO2 is something that you're using often, right? So if you want that on that side, great. So there's 2 tank holders if you can switch. So let's say you're in the ICU and you don't have a tank and you're like, oh, sorry doc, we ran out of CO2, and you're switching to air.
Mhm.
Now you have a tank you can swap out to. That was the whole idea behind that.
If it's okay to put the argon on the other
Yeah,
side,
'cause we
because
don't use it.
that's the open side. This is always the open side that's over here where that is. So that would be in the CO2, like you're saying. That's the one that we changed.
So
Yeah.
we don't have to walk.
Easy peasy, no problem. So the other thing here is this little thing. What is this here? That's actually a foot pedal holder. For your,
Mhm.
Fantastic.
I know it's the little things. I know.
It is, literally.
I know. I'm a nurse. The little things people just don't know. So the foot holder for your Irby.
Mhm.
Now it can travel. You don't have to like
Fantastic.
get gross. So that, believe it or not, trust me, is such a little thing.
It is.
It can be life changing. So that's your foot pedal holder. I can keep it on that side. Well, I don't know. You tell me. So when you put CO2, it has this bracketry. I don't know if I could put the foot pedal here, where you're standing. You know what I mean?
Would it still fit there with the CO2 on that side or no?
Yeah, if you look at the CO2 spacing, no.
Yeah.
Like, unless I put the foot pedal up here, which is fine, if that's what you want. And this, I'll move it to the other side because you can wrap your Irby cord and that hangs there.
Then I guess we better leave it on there.
We could
'Cause
try
we'll
it.
be
Yeah.
on that,
You
right?
want to give it a try?
Because we'll
So
be on that side.
you will, yeah. Why don't I do this? I'll put that little foot
Yeah.
switch up here and see if that's comfortable enough. This handle by default is on this side. I could actually move this up. It's not really that. So if we need extra spacing, I could work with that. Let's give it a shot. I think that might work. Your bottle holder, that floppy cup thing that you guys were using all the time. This is more secure.
Mhm. Mhm.
So
Again, the little.
The
Right,
little
right, right.
I'm telling you, I've been in your shoes. Oh, so you guys use the old school or what?
Oh,
This guy?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yep.
we're missing rings every day. Air processing loses them.
Mhm.
I'm gonna miss all this.
I know. I said the cart's retiring and so is Dr. Marina. He started with it now.
All right, I'm gonna help you guys out.
With the new
It's gonna be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, your workflow, you should be happy actually today. But clinically speaking, there's a lot of clinical advancements with this processor, your imaging, all that stuff is going to come with the physicians, maybe asking them questions. And the only way I can represent that right now is by looking up a scope so you can see some things. The settings, I have it loaded on my flash drive, so I'm going to load them here, my little personal settings. That more likely your physicians will be playing it to start with. Can the physicians have their own presets? Like Dr. A, Dr. B, Dr. C wants button A, Y, and C to be a certain way? The answer is yes. Do you guys do that now? Or everyone has to use the same buttons? Before, we used to not give anybody a choice. It was just like, these are your buttons, have fun with it. And nationwide, everybody's gotten accustomed to these kind of like minimum presets. The reason why it hasn't been comfortable in the past to give physicians options, because you have to go in the menu, go into these archaic menus to select that physician. Was it possible? Yes. It was difficult to navigate, so more often than not, us, we just get used to it, Doug. It's fine. Now, in the past, that's fine. We're only interested on a couple things when it comes to button switches. By switches, I mean the button programming on the scopes. One, take a picture. The other one was freeze, which often they used to do, which freeze the picture, take the picture, right? The other one was NBI. Do you guys know what that is? NBI is it's called narrowband imaging. It's like that blue light that they can see Barrett's. If you didn't know what that was, that enhances some of the vasculature pattern around, for instance, Barrett's esophagus, and gives them a better idea of like what that looks like. So that's an enhancement mode that was pivotal for Barrett's. So that was a program button. And then the third button was always programmed for a couple different functions. One, could actually run your foot pedal. I don't know if you knew that. So if your flushing pump, you could actually run it with your finger. That, or it could be programmed as a stopwatch. It could be programmed as something else. Now that we have RDI, TXI, all these other image modes, they're going to want to like press all that. And sometimes certain procedures, you may use one or the other. So it's a lot easier to get custom presets for a physician, or even procedurally. Now, the way you do that is on the home screen. It's locked right now, so forgive me. Let me load my presets and I'll show you what that looks like. Right here, it'll be a list of physicians or the presets. You just easily hit it. Even in the middle of the case, you're like, oh, it's set to Dr. So-and-so, and it's Dr. So-and-so. You could just, boop, boop, and then all of a sudden,
Don't miss anything of history.
middle of the procedure, they're like, oh, okay, what's this button? You could easily change it in a matter of seconds to the proper one that they want. And I'll show you visually on the screen where you can see what the buttons are programmed. There's more there in a minute. So let's pause for a second. Let me load the programs.